Hello and welcome to another TLDR Explains video. With apprehension about the economic impacts of COVID and the apparent risk of a tidal wave of unemployment, on Wednesday, Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, took to the dispatch box in a mini budget to announce his plan for jobs. So in this video, we'll take a look at what he said and what it means for jobs and the UK economy more generally. Before we get started, a quick shout out for our podcast, Too Long Didn't Read. It's been on hiatus for a bit, but now it's back, and you can find the latest episode linked below, or you can find it by searching in your podcast app of choice. Also, be sure to subscribe to the Too Long Didn't Read YouTube channel, as next Wednesday at 6 PM, we're doing a live stream where we'll answer your questions, do some colouring, and generally just chat to the audience. The link to the channel and the stream can be found below. Now, while it may look like a budget, smell like a budget, and even taste like one too, formally, this wasn't a budget, rather a summer statement, complementing the earlier spring budget. There was, as there always is, a lot of discussion and anticipation about what the Chancellor would announce. At one point, The Guardian was reporting that the Treasury was considering proposals being drawn up by the Resolution Foundation think tank to give £500 worth of vouchers to all adults and £250 to every child in the UK, which could be spent on the high street to kickstart the economy. But enough of the hypotheticals, what was actually announced? Setting the scene, the Chancellor reiterated the extent of the economic crisis. In 2 months, the UK has faced a contraction of 25%, evaporating the growth of the past 18 years. In professional services, output fell 20% in April compared to February. In construction, it was 44%, arts and entertainment 47%, and accommodation and food fell by 92%. Some 1.1 million employers furloughed their staff, adding up to 9.3 million jobs, costing, as of midnight on the 28th of June, £25.5 billion. With all of that in mind, at the dispatch box, the Chancellor announced a so-called comprehensive plan for jobs.
Order! I call the Chancellor of the Exchequer to make a statement. Chancellor of the Exchequer!
Mr. Speaker, I stood here in March saying I knew people were worried. And I know they're worried still. We have taken decisive action to protect our economy, but people are anxious about losing their job. So today we act with a plan for jobs.
A package of measures costing up to £30 billion and working to retain existing jobs, create new ones, and overall get the economy back on a sustainable footing. Something he was at pains to stress would not be his last action, merely the next. When it comes to retaining existing jobs, he directly countered those calling for countless extensions to the current Furlough Scheme.
Central to our economic response has been the Jobs Retention Scheme. Furlough has been a lifeline for millions, supporting people and businesses to protect jobs. But it cannot and should not go on forever. I know that when furlough ends, it will be a difficult moment. I'm also sure that if I say the scheme must end in October, critics will say it should end in November.
The argument behind this, to the Chancellor's credit, is economically sound. Skills, particularly manually intensive ones, that require repetition to perfect and hone, will invariably fade over time, a concept known as hysteresis. Without rapid action to get people back to work, long-term unemployment may begin to set in. The issue being that there's no consensus on how long it takes to, on aggregate, to have a permanent negative impact on the economy. Regardless, the Chancellor stuck to his guns and announced that the furlough scheme will wind down, flexibly and slowly, as announced earlier on. Specifically, it will allow workers to come back on reduced hours from July 1st. From August 1st, employers will be required to meet the cost of employer national insurance and pension costs. By September, they'll be required to cover 10% of the employee's growth pay, and by October, this will reach 20%. And by the end of the month, the scheme will entirely shut down. But to counter those calls, the Chancellor announced a job retention bonus, rewarding and incentivising employers to bring back furloughed workers.
we're introducing a new policy to reward and incentivise employers who successfully bring furloughed staff back. A new jobs retention bonus. If you're an employer and you bring someone back who was furloughed and you continuously employ them through to January, we will pay you a £1,000 bonus per employee.
This is a potentially huge pledge. If all 9.3 million furloughed workers went back and qualified for the bonus, it would amount to a £9.3 billion policy, adding to the £60 billion the furlough scheme is already expected to cost. That being said, not everyone passes the threshold, and sadly, due to store and business closures and bankruptcies, not everyone will return. Regardless, the Chancellor affirmed that
if you stand by your workers, we will stand by you.
In order to protect school and university leavers, those set to be hardest hit by the long-term impact of the virus, a Kickstart Scheme was announced, directly paying employers to create new jobs. These new jobs will be at the national minimum wage for at least 25 hours a week, and available to 16 to 24-year-olds, those at most risk of long-term unemployment. For the first 6 months, the government will fully assume their wages, as well as any other additional overheads.
Employers can apply to be part of the scheme from next month, with the first Kickstarters in their new jobs this autumn. And I urge every employer, big or small, national or local, to hire as many Kickstarters as possible.
Employers will be paid £1,000 to take on trainees and get £2,000 to encourage them to hire apprentices. On green investment, a £2 million Green Homes grant was announced in order to sustain a green recovery with concern for our environment at its heart, with homeowners given vouchers to make their homes more energy efficient, covering at least 2/3 of costs, up to £5,000 per household, increasing to the full cost of up to £10,000 for low-income households. A further £1 billion was pledged to increase the energy efficiency of public sector buildings, all in all, meaning that some 650,000 homes are set to become more energy efficient.
Taken together, we expect these measures to save households up to £300 a year on their bills, cut carbon by more than 0.5 megatonne per year, and most importantly right now, support around 140,000 green jobs.
To give a boost to the housing market, and as preempted by some, the Chancellor announced an immediate cut in stamp duty, the tax applied to people buying homes, upping the threshold from £125,000 to £500,000, meaning a £4,500 fall in the average stamp duty bill. This is a measure that's set to last until the 31st of March 2021, meaning that 9 out of 10 people won't pay any stamp duty at all up until that point. And finally, when it comes to hospitality, the hardest hit area of the economy, 2 new measures were announced. First, a VAT cut for 6 months from 20% to 5% on accommodation, food and attractions, starting next Wednesday until the 12th of January 2021. This is a £4 billion catalyst, affecting 150,000 businesses and 2.4 million jobs. Then, in a measure which has never been tried in the UK before, for the month of August, everyone in the country will receive an Eat Out to Help Out discount. Meals eaten at participating businesses Monday to Wednesday will be 50% off, up to a maximum discount of £10 per head.
To get customers back into restaurants, cafes and pubs, and protect the 1.8 million people who work in them, businesses will need to register and can do so through a simple website, open next Monday. Each week in August, businesses can then claim the money back with the funds in their bank account within 5 working days. 1.8 million people work in this industry. They need our support. And with this measure, we can all eat out to help out.
All in all, this is a £30 billion package to kickstart the economy. But what do you think of it? Did the Chancellor go far enough? Is more needed? And will you be eating out to help out? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, you can also get involved in the conversation over on Discord. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified every time we release a new video. Special thanks to our Patreon backers whose support makes videos like this one possible.